Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Obscure History. Today we are going to be talking about the great Finnish sniper, the man who probably has the highest count out of anyone as a sniper, Simo Häyhä. Now, in recent years, the story of Simo Häyhä has become a lot more prominent. However, this man still doesn't get the credit he actually deserves, because during what is known as the Winter War, which was an early campaign of World War II, which took place from November of 1939 until March of 1940, in that 4-month time period, he eliminated as many as 500 enemy soldiers. Well, let's go ahead and look at the life of this amazing man and actually discover why there isn't even like a great blockbuster movie about his life. Now, Simo actually had a very modest life. He was basically born as a farmer and grew up in southern Finland right along the Russian border. And he would spend much of his youth as a student, a hunter, and a skier before joining the military. At the age of 17, and actually started to demonstrate his shooting prowess from that age. But he was a very modest man. He didn't like to brag about his skills, and in fact, whenever they would have group photos, he kind of hid himself in the back. Now, at the age of 19, he ended up joining his country's compulsory military service, where he would serve with the bicycle battalion, and eventually would go to non-commissioned officer school. And for the next several years, he really didn't do anything of note. However, with the idea that war was looming in the future, in 1938, his country officially sent him to sniper school. Now, the Winter War itself, the event that led to Simo Häyhä's fame, was actually a result of a Soviet invasion of Finland. Now, initially what happened was essentially the Soviet Union, in the months after the beginning of World War II, demanded parts of Finland give up its border region as a claim to protect itself. Basically, they said that this was a measure to secure themselves and protect themselves from future invasions, and they basically demanded that the Finnish people give up the land. Now, Finland immediately rejected this, and as a result, on November 30th, the Soviet Union invaded Finland. Now, many historical experts actually believe the whole purpose of this was not a security measure, but instead to establish Finland as a puppet state and one of its satellite states that were designed to basically secure Russia's borders, as we would see with several other Eastern European countries. And while the Soviet Union was militarily superior, the Finnish people managed to put up an incredibly powerful fight against them. And men like Simo Häyhä were part of this resistance against the Soviet Union. Häyhä was part of a sniper unit and was trained specifically to fight in snowy conditions. He wore white camouflage when the standard Soviet Union of the time did not have any camouflage against snow, making Soviet troops stick out. Additionally, this is at a time when Stalin's own purges against his own military leaders actually prevented him from having the proper leadership to counter these specially trained Arctic troops. Now, while Simo was not the only sniper being deployed by the Finnish at this time, he did have the highest kill count. To put that in perspective, his entire campaign of operations was 100 days long, which means he was averaging 5 kills per day. And to anyone who doesn't think that's a big deal, one, you don't know a lot about sniping if you think 5 in one day is not a big deal. And two, he was doing this all with a Finnish copy of the Massa Nagant, the M2830. And while there are sniper variants of this rifle, Häyhä actually didn't like telescopic sights and instead chose to use iron sights. Meaning that Häyhä did all of this work with 500 plus kills, all without the use of any sort of magnification sighting. Now, it is because of his skills with this weapon that he would earn his famous nickname, the White Death. However, there is some issues with that nickname, because while it's credited that the Soviets gave him the nickname, there's no actual proof saying they gave it to him, and in all likelihood, his nickname was actually a bit of Finnish propaganda designed to scare Soviet troops. Regardless, the man did the duty that his nation set for him, getting as many as 25 kills in one day. And by the end of the war, it's believed he may have had as many as 542. Now, Häyhä actually would serve as a sniper until March 6, 1940. And it is on this fateful day, while out on excursion, he ended up being struck in his lower left jaw by an explosive round from a Soviet troop. And he was actually rendered unconscious from the hit and was discovered covered in blood, and they actually thought he was dead, so they picked him up and they threw his body on top of a pile of dead bodies. However, he would wake up about 1 week later on March 13th, the day of the ceasefire, and would discover after reading a newspaper that he was claimed dead. And to show of how humble this man is, he actually wrote the newspaper just to say, hey, I'm not dead. Now, even though Simo was actually injured at this time, he tried to join what was known as the Continuation War, which is where the Axis powers teamed up with Finland to take on the Soviet Union. However, due to the extensive damage to his face, he was not permitted to join the conflict. Simo would actually spend the rest of the war trying to recover from his injuries. And after the war, he actually went back to southern Finland, where he would be given a farm, and he would spend basically the rest of his life as a farmer and a hunter, taking honored guests from around the country, including the President of Finland, on hunting trips. And up until his death, he almost never talked about what he did during his service in the Finnish military, stating that he was only doing what his country told him to do. As for his legacy, most of what was known at the time about him came from the Kolja and Simo Häyhä Museum, which had an entire exhibit dedicated to his work as a sniper, including his sniper rifle, which sadly went missing after 2002. Now, Simo would live until the age of 96 and pass away in 2002 at a veterans nursing home, and he was buried in his hometown. But there you have it, a look at the legendary Simo Häyhä, a man whose claim of 500-plus enemy eliminations is claimed by some to be some of the highest or the highest of any sniper. There is some dispute about that because there's a few others who may have higher counts. However, he's definitely the highest in Finland and probably the highest within a 100-day span. Now, as to why most people don't hear about this, well, there's two reasons, really. One, it wasn't discovered, a lot of what he did, until 2017 when his personal diary was found. Additionally, the fact that Finland ended up fighting with the Axis powers kind of prevents a lot of people from wanting to do a story about him. But that's it for today. I thank you for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you on the next time.